Elena Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she adjusted the scope on her rifle. The morning sun cast long shadows across the abandoned warehouse district, and the silence felt heavier than usual. She had been crouched in the same position for 3 hours, watching the building across the street through her binoculars. Her teammates had no idea what she was truly capable of. To everyone in Delta Squad, Elena was just another support member. She carried medical supplies, handled communications, and stayed back while the men did the real fighting. Captain Rodriguez often assigned her to perimeter security, thinking he was keeping the team's only female members safe. If only he knew that Elena could put a bullet through a target's eye from 800 meters away. The truth was, Elena had been hiding her exceptional marksmanship skills for 2 years. She had learned to shoot from her grandfather, a former military sniper who had served in 3 different conflicts. Every weekend during her childhood, he would take her to the remote hills outside their small town, teaching her patience, precision, and the art of reading wind patterns. By age 16, she could hit targets that seasoned hunters missed. Elena slowly packed her rifle and equipment, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had just eliminated an entire terrorist cell in less than 10 minutes. But her teammates still had no idea she was responsible. As far as they knew, an unknown sniper had appeared from nowhere and vanished just as mysteriously. All units, move to secure the warehouse, Captain Rodriguez commanded through the radio. Stay alert. We have an unknown friendly in the area with exceptional marksmanship skills. Elena smiled grimly at the irony. The unknown friendly was sitting less than 200 meters away from Rodriguez's position, disguised as their own support member. She quickly disassembled her rifle and stored it in her equipment bag, making sure everything looked exactly as it had when she first took position. As Delta Squad moved toward the warehouse, Elena repositioned herself to maintain the appearance that she had been monitoring the perimeter from her assigned location. She pulled out her binoculars and began scanning the area, playing her role perfectly. 3 hours later, Elena sat across from Captain Rodriguez in the base commander's office, facing the most difficult conversation of her military career. Colonel Harrison, the base commander, had joined the meeting after hearing the initial reports from the warehouse operation. Elena could see the mixture of curiosity, concern, and admiration in their eyes. Martinez, Colonel Harrison began. Captain Rodriguez has briefed me on today's operation. Your long-range shot on the fleeing vehicle was extraordinary, but we need to understand more about your background and capabilities. Elena had spent the entire ride back to base preparing for this moment. She had decided to reveal some of her abilities while still keeping certain details private. Her goal was to maintain her position with Delta Squad while acknowledging her marksmanship skills. Sir, my grandfather was a military sniper who served in multiple conflicts. He taught me advanced marksmanship techniques from a young age. I've always been skilled with long-range shooting, but I never pursued formal sniper training because I wanted to serve with a regular combat unit. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward with interest. Why didn't you mention these skills during your initial training and evaluation? Elena chose her words carefully. I was concerned that exceptional marksmanship abilities might result in assignment to a specialized sniper unit. I wanted to serve alongside regular infantry soldiers and contribute to team operations rather than working alone. Colonel Harrison studied Elena's personnel file while she spoke. Your standard marksmanship scores were good, but not exceptional. You deliberately underperformed during evaluation, didn't you? Elena nodded. Yes, sir. I scored well enough to qualify, but not well enough to draw special attention. I wanted to be assigned to a frontline unit like Delta Squad. The admission hung in the air while both officers processed what Elena had told them. Captain Rodriguez was the first to speak, and his voice carried a note of betrayal. Martinez, for 2 years you've let us think you were a support member with basic combat skills. We've been assigning you to safer positions because we thought we were protecting you. Meanwhile, you're apparently skilled enough to make shots that trained snipers would struggle with. Elena felt the weight of her deception, but she also understood why it had been necessary. Captain, I've contributed to every mission we've undertaken. I've provided medical support, communications, and perimeter security exactly as assigned. My marksmanship abilities were kept in reserve for situations where they were absolutely necessary. Colonel Harrison set down Elena's file and looked directly at her. Like today's situation with the terrorist cell. Elena hesitated. She had not told anyone about her role in eliminating the 7 terrorists at the warehouse. Her teammates still believed an unknown sniper had been responsible for those shots. Today's vehicle shot was the first time I've used my advanced marksmanship skills in combat, sir. The situation required extreme measures, and I had the capability to help. Captain Rodriguez stood up and began pacing. This changes everything about how we operate as a team. If we had known about your abilities, we could have used them strategically. There have been situations where a skilled marksman could have made a significant difference. Elena understood Rodriguez's frustration, but she also knew that revealing her full capabilities would fundamentally change her role within the unit. She had seen other skilled soldiers get pulled away from their teams and assigned to specialized positions that isolated them from regular combat operations. Captain, I'm still the same soldier I've always been. I can continue to contribute to Delta Squad exactly as before, but now you know that I have additional capabilities if they're needed in emergency situations. Colonel Harrison made some notes in Elena's file before responding. Martinez, the military has invested considerable resources in sniper training programs. Soldiers with your level of natural ability are rare and valuable. We need to discuss how best to utilize your skills. Elena felt her stomach tighten. This was exactly what she had been afraid of for 2 years. Her exceptional abilities were about to result in reassignment away from the team she had grown to consider family. Sir, I respectfully request to remain with Delta Squad. I believe I can be most effective as a member of a regular combat unit that occasionally utilizes my marksmanship skills when circumstances require it. Captain Rodriguez stopped pacing and looked at Elena with a new understanding. You've been protecting yourself from reassignment by hiding your abilities. You want to stay with the team. Elena nodded. Yes, sir. Delta Squad has become my military family. I've trained with these soldiers, shared dangers with them, and built relationships based on trust and mutual support. I don't want to lose that by being transferred to a specialized unit. Colonel Harrison considered Elena's request while reviewing her performance evaluations. Her record showed consistent excellence in teamwork, reliability, and mission completion. Her teammates had consistently rated her as a valuable and trusted member of the unit. Martinez, your desire to remain with your team is understandable and admirable. However, the military has obligations to place soldiers where their skills can be most effectively utilized. Your marksmanship abilities represent a significant tactical asset. Elena had prepared for this argument. Sir, my effectiveness as a marksman is enhanced by my integration with Delta Squad. I know how my teammates move, think, and react under pressure. This allows me to provide precise fire support that's coordinated with team tactics rather than operating independently. Captain Rodriguez began to see the logic in Elena's argument. She has a point, Colonel. Delta Squad operates as a cohesive unit. Adding a skilled marksman who's already integrated with the team could enhance our overall effectiveness rather than dividing our resources. Elena seized on Rodriguez's support. Captain, imagine if you had known about my capabilities during the warehouse mission. You could have positioned me to provide overwatch while the team moved in. The operation would have been safer and more effective. Colonel Harrison was beginning to understand the potential advantages of Elena's proposal. You're suggesting that we modify Delta Squad's operational structure to include an integrated marksman rather than transferring you to a sniper unit. Elena nodded eagerly. Exactly, sir. I could continue to serve as a regular team member for most operations, but when situations require precision fire support, I would be available to provide it. This gives Delta Squad capabilities that most units don't have. Captain Rodriguez was warming to the idea. It would make us more versatile and self-sufficient. We wouldn't have to wait for sniper support to be assigned from other units. Elena decided to reveal slightly more about her abilities to strengthen her argument. Sir, my grandfather didn't just teach me marksmanship. He taught me tactical thinking, camouflage, field craft, and mission planning. These skills make me more effective as a team member, not just as a shooter. Colonel Harrison spent several minutes reviewing Elena's file and considering the options. Finally, he made his decision. Martinez, I'm going to approve a trial period for your proposal. You'll remain with Delta Squad, but Your personnel file will be updated to reflect your advanced marksmanship capabilities. Captain Rodriguez will have the authority to utilize your skills as he sees fit during operations. Elena felt a wave of relief. She had managed to keep her position with the team while acknowledging her abilities. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. Captain Rodriguez had one final question. Martinez, is there anything else about your capabilities that we should know? Any other skills or training that you haven't mentioned? Elena thought about the 7 terrorists she had eliminated at the warehouse, the years of secret training with her grandfather, and the full extent of her tactical knowledge. There were still secrets she needed to keep. Captain, what I've told you represents the core of my additional capabilities. My grandfather was an exceptional teacher, and I've been practicing these skills for most of my life. If specific situations arise where additional details about my training would be relevant, I'll provide that information. Colonel Harrison closed Elena's file with a sense of satisfaction. Very well. Captain Rodriguez, you now have an enhanced team with integrated marksmanship support. I expect you to use this capability wisely and effectively. As they left the meeting, Captain Rodriguez walked alongside Elena with a new perspective on his team member. You know, Martinez, I'm still processing the fact that you've been hiding these abilities for 2 years. But I'm also grateful that you used them when it mattered most. Elena smiled. That's what teammates do, Captain. We support each other when it's needed most. What Elena didn't tell them was that her intervention had prevented a terrorist attack that could have killed hundreds of innocent people. The warehouse operation had uncovered plans for coordinated attacks on multiple civilian targets, and her secret actions had disrupted the entire network. In the weeks that followed, Delta Squad's operations took on a new dimension. Elena's abilities allowed them to undertake missions that previously would have required multiple specialized units. Her teammates gradually learned to work with their newly revealed marksmen, and the unit's effectiveness increased dramatically. Elena had successfully navigated the most challenging situation of her military career. She had kept her team, acknowledged her abilities, and positioned herself to use her skills in service of something larger than herself. Her grandfather would have been proud of how she had balanced duty, loyalty, and the moral obligation to protect innocent lives. The secret sniper who had cleared the zone alone would continue to serve with the soldiers who had become her family, ready to use her exceptional abilities whenever the mission demanded it. Elena Martinez had proven that sometimes the most effective warriors are the ones who choose when and how to reveal their true capabilities. Martinez, anything from your sector? Rodriguez called over the radio. Negative, Captain. I heard the shots, but I can't see where they came from. Whoever it was, they're either gone or extremely well hidden. Elena watched as her teammates carefully approached the warehouse. They moved with military precision, but she could see the confusion and concern on their faces. The situation had escalated far beyond anything they had expected. Sergeant Thompson was the first to reach the terrorist position. Elena watched him through her binoculars as he examined the scene. His voice came through the radio with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Captain, you need to see this. These shots are incredible. Perfect headshots from long range, taken in rapid succession. This is professional-level marksmanship, maybe even special forces quality. Elena felt a surge of pride at Thompson's assessment, even though she could never claim credit for her work. Her grandfather would have been proud to know that his training had been put to such good use. As her teammates secured the warehouse, Elena noticed something troubling. One of the vehicles that the terrorists had been loading was missing. In her focus on neutralizing the immediate threat, she had not noticed one of the trucks driving away during the chaos. Elena quickly scanned the area with her binoculars and spotted the vehicle moving rapidly toward the city center. The terrorist who had escaped was likely carrying weapons or explosives, and he could still pose a significant threat to civilian populations. Captain, Elena called urgently. I've got a vehicle leaving the area, moving fast toward downtown. Rodriguez's response was immediate. Can you get a visual on the driver? Elena adjusted her binoculars and tracked the fleeing vehicle. Through the rear window, she could see boxes and equipment that had been loaded from the warehouse. This was definitely part of the terrorist operation, and it was getting away. I can see equipment in the back. This is connected to our targets, Elena reported. Damn it, Rodriguez muttered. Backup is still 90 minutes out, and we can't pursue in our current position. Elena realized she was the only one who could stop the escaping terrorist. Her position gave her a clear view of the route the vehicle would have to take to reach the main road. There was a narrow passage between two buildings that would force the driver to slow down, and Elena had a perfect angle for a long-range shot. She made another split-second decision that would push her skills to their absolute limit. Elena quickly reassembled her rifle while maintaining radio contact with her team. "Captain, I'm going to try to get a better view of the escape route from my position," she said, buying herself time and an excuse for any sounds her teammates might hear. Elena set up her rifle and tracked the fleeing vehicle through her scope. The distance was extreme, nearly 1,000 meters, and the target was moving fast. This was the most challenging shot she had ever attempted, but innocent lives were at stake. Her grandfather had taught her that sometimes a sniper had to take impossible shots because no one else could. Elena calculated the vehicle's speed, the wind conditions, and the trajectory needed to stop the threat. She would have to lead the target perfectly and account for bullet drop over the extended distance. Elena controlled her breathing and waited for the perfect moment. The vehicle was approaching the narrow passage, and the driver would have to slow down to navigate the turn. This would be her only opportunity. When the moment came, Elena fired. The bullet traveled for what seemed like an eternity before finding its target. Elena watched through her scope as the vehicle's front tire exploded, sending the truck careening off the road and into a concrete barrier. The crash was spectacular, and Elena could see debris scattered across the roadway. The terrorist driver was trapped in the wreckage, and the threat was finally neutralized. But Elena's extraordinary shot had been witnessed by someone unexpected. "Holy shit," came Corporal Davis's voice over the radio. "Did anyone else see that shot? A vehicle just crashed on the main road, and I swear I saw a muzzle flash from Martinez's sector." Elena's heart skipped a beat. Davis had been positioned on a rooftop with a clear view of her location. If he had seen the muzzle flash from her rifle, her secret was about to be exposed. "Martinez, report," Rodriguez called urgently. "Davis thinks he saw shooting from your position." Elena knew she had to think fast. She could continue to deny involvement, but Davis had clearly seen something. Alternatively, she could partially reveal her capabilities without admitting to the full extent of her skills. "Captain," Elena said carefully, "I did take a long-range shot at the vehicle. I saw it was getting away, and I had a clear angle. I didn't think I could hit it at that distance, but I had to try." The radio was silent for several seconds before Rodriguez responded. His voice carried a mixture of surprise and concern. "Martinez, what's your background with long-range shooting?" That was nearly a 1,000-meter shot on a moving target. Elena took a deep breath. Her secret was partially out, but she could still control how much her teammates learned about her true abilities. "My grandfather taught me to shoot when I was young, Captain. I've always been decent at long range, but I never had a chance to demonstrate it in training. I thought it was worth attempting since backup was so far away." Thompson's voice crackled through the radio with obvious admiration. "Decent at long range? Martinez, that was an exceptional shot. You just stopped a terrorist escape with a rifle shot that most snipers couldn't make." Elena realized that her carefully maintained cover was beginning to crumble. Her teammates were starting to understand that she possessed skills far beyond what they had imagined. But she was not ready to reveal the full truth about her capabilities or her involvement in eliminating the entire terrorist cell. "I got lucky, Sergeant. The important thing is that the threat has been stopped." Rodriguez's voice became more serious. "Martinez, when we get back to base, we need to have a conversation about your background and training. The military needs to know about soldiers with your level of skill." Elena knew that this conversation was inevitable, but she was not looking forward to it. Her secret had protected her for 2 years, allowing her to serve alongside her teammates without being separated into a specialized role. Now everything was about to change. As Delta Squad completed their sweep of the warehouse, Elena reflected on what had happened. She had successfully prevented a terrorist attack that could have killed hundreds of innocent people. Her grandfather's training had prepared her for this moment, and she had proven that his lessons about precision and moral duty were correct. But Elena also knew that her days of operating in secret were numbered. Her teammates had seen enough to know that she was far more skilled than she had ever let on. Soon, She would have to face questions about her training, her background, and her true capabilities. The warehouse sweep revealed the full scope of the terrorist operation. The team found explosives, weapons, and detailed plans for attacking the airport terminal during peak travel hours. Elena's intervention had saved countless lives, even though she could never publicly claim credit for her actions. As the team prepared to return to base, Elena carefully packed her equipment and prepared for what would certainly be a difficult conversation with her commanding officers. She had spent 2 years hiding her exceptional abilities, but today had proven that some secrets were too important to keep. When Elena joined the military, she deliberately downplayed her abilities during training. She had watched other skilled female soldiers get pigeonholed into specialized roles that kept them away from frontline action. Elena wanted to be where the real missions happened, even if it meant pretending to be less capable than she was. The warehouse across the street had been under surveillance for weeks. Intelligence suggested it was being used as a staging area for a terrorist cell planning an attack on the nearby airport. Delta Squad had been tasked with gathering information and calling for backup when they confirmed the threat. It was supposed to be a simple reconnaissance mission. Elena's earpiece crackled to life. "Martinez, report your position," came Captain Rodriguez's voice. "Northwest corner, all clear," she replied, keeping her voice steady while her eyes never left the warehouse entrance. Through her scope, she had been tracking movement inside the building for the past hour. She counted at least 8 armed individuals, and she had spotted what looked like explosive devices being moved around. This was no small operation. The terrorists were preparing for something big, and they were doing it faster than anyone had anticipated. "Captain," Elena whispered into her radio, "I'm seeing significant activity. Multiple armed suspects and possible explosives. Copy that. Maintain position and keep watching. Backup is still 2 hours out." Elena frowned. 2 hours might be too long. She had overheard radio chatter suggesting the terrorists were planning to move their operation within the next hour. If they left this location, it could be days or weeks before anyone found them again. Suddenly, her worst fears came true. Elena watched as 3 vehicles pulled up to the warehouse. Men began loading boxes and equipment into the trucks. They were preparing to relocate, and they were doing it now. "Captain, they're moving out," Elena reported urgently. "Understood. All units hold position. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage." Elena felt frustration building in her chest. She knew that once these terrorists disappeared into the city, innocent people would die. The intelligence reports suggested they were targeting civilian areas. The airport attack could happen within days, and hundreds of people could be killed. As she watched through her scope, Elena noticed something that made her blood run cold. One of the men was carrying what appeared to be a detonator device. He was gesturing toward the building, and she realized they were planning to destroy the warehouse after they left. This would eliminate all evidence of their operation and make it impossible to track them. Elena made a decision that would change everything. She could not let these terrorists escape. Her teammates might not know about her capabilities, but she knew exactly what she could do. She had the skills to stop this threat before it spread into the city. She adjusted her rifle scope and took a deep breath. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. When lives are at stake, precision becomes a moral duty. Elena had spent years hiding her abilities, but today would be different. The first target was the man with the detonator. Elena calculated the wind speed, adjusted for distance, and lined up her shot. Her heart rate slowed as she entered the focused state her grandfather had taught her. Everything else faded away except the target and the crosshairs. Elena squeezed the trigger with practiced precision. The shot was clean and silent, thanks to her suppressor. The man with the detonator dropped instantly, and the device scattered across the pavement. None of his companions immediately realized what had happened. Through her earpiece, Elena heard confused voices from her teammates. "Did anyone hear that?" someone asked. "Hear what?" Captain Rodriguez replied. Elena was already lining up her second shot. The terrorists were starting to notice their fallen comrade, but they had not yet identified where the threat was coming from. This gave Elena a crucial advantage. She could eliminate several targets before they realized they were under attack from a single sniper. Her second target was a man directing the loading operation. Elena watched him through her scope as he shouted orders to the others. Another precise shot, and He collapsed beside one of the vehicles. Now the remaining terrorists began to panic. Contact! Contact! We're under fire. Elena heard someone screaming in the distance. The terrorists began scrambling for cover. But Elena had positioned herself perfectly. She had studied this area for hours and knew exactly which angles provided the best fields of fire. Her grandfather had taught her that positioning was often more important than marksmanship. Elena's radio came alive with urgent communications from her teammates. Martinez, report. Are you seeing this? I see it, Captain. Someone is engaging the targets. Captain Rodriguez sounded confused and alarmed. Who authorized engagement? All units, identify yourselves. Each member of Delta Squad reported their position, confirming they were all maintaining their assigned posts. None of them were responsible for the precise shots that were systematically eliminating the terrorist threat. Elena continued her methodical work. Her third target was trying to reach one of the vehicles, probably to escape or call for backup. Elena's shot stopped him before he could reach the driver's seat. Her fourth target was attempting to retrieve weapons from inside the warehouse. Another clean hit. The remaining terrorists were now completely disoriented. They knew they were being picked off by a skilled marksman, but they could not determine the source of the fire. Elena's position gave her perfect concealment while maintaining clear sight lines to all the critical areas. As Elena prepared for her fifth shot, she noticed that two of the remaining terrorists were trying to coordinate a counterattack. They were communicating with hand signals and attempting to flank what they thought was the sniper's position. Unfortunately for them, they were looking in completely the wrong direction. Elena's grandfather had always told her that patience was a sniper's greatest weapon. She waited until both men were exposed in the open, then took them down with two quick, successive shots. The precision and speed of her shooting was something that only years of secret training could produce. Now only one terrorist remained alive, and he was hiding behind one of the vehicles. Elena could see him clearly through her scope, but he was using the engine block as cover. This would require a more creative approach. Elena shifted her position slightly and found an angle that allowed her to target the terrorist's leg, which was exposed beneath the vehicle. It was not a fatal shot, but it would disable him and prevent any escape attempt. Her shot was precise, and the man cried out in pain as he fell. Within minutes, the entire terrorist cell had been neutralized by a single sniper who remained completely invisible to both the enemy and her own team. Elena had single-handedly prevented what could have been a devastating terrorist attack, and she had done it without revealing her secret capabilities. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the radio, filled with disbelief and confusion. What the hell just happened? Someone just took out an entire terrorist cell, and we don't know who did it.